Jade from Boho Bookworm. I promise I will get a new filming location soon, but life has been a bit upside down lately, so I'm working with what I've got. Today I decided, because I can't believe it, it's June, it's almost July already, so we're halfway through the year, and I've read some freaking good thrillers lately, so I wanted to tell you the best 3 thrillers I have read this year so far. I don't have any of the physical copies of the books with me because they're in the middle of the ocean on the way from Australia, because all my shit is getting returned, and then I will go and find a new home for myself and that beautiful little missus at some point. The first book that I gave a 5-star review as a thriller on Goodreads was White Bodies by Jane Robbins. So White Bodies is about a couple called Felix and Tilda, and like with many thriller books, it appears that they are the perfect couple, but of course it is all a big facade. The word facade just sounds so rude. I love it. Tilda has a twin called Callie, a twin sister. For years, Callie has watched Tilda kind of shrink and go into herself because she really thinks that Felix is super domineering and something's not quite right in their relationship. Tilda basically, through her time with Felix, stopped working, she stopped eating, she lost a bunch of weight. Callie's also noticed some bruises on her sister's arms, and she's noticed a really big change in her personality. She's become this neat freak, but obsessive, as in wrapping mugs in saran wrap, and there's all these strange syringes in the house, and she just knows something is going on, but she can't quite put her finger on what it is. So Callie decides to go onto the internet and basically join a chat room support group so she can try and get some advice on what the hell is going on with her sister from others that have been in abusive situations, such as the one she thinks her sister might be in. She makes a couple of friends on the internet, but she starts questioning her own judgment and whether what she's doing is the right thing, because then one of her newfound friends dies because I think she gets killed by a abusive man, and then Felix dies. So that's a bit weird, was he murdered, or was it maybe drugs with those syringes in the house? You never know, and it's all a bit what the fuck is going on. I'd been wanting to read White Bodies for months. Miss Ellie, please don't bark right now. I'm busy trying to film an already probably shit video. Thank you. I actually honestly don't know what took me so long to read this book, because it was an absolutely unnerving, crazy, twisted masterpiece. I gave it 5 stars, as I already said. To be honest, I've never really read anything quite like it. It's so unique, and to say that about a thriller book is very special to me, at least, because I read a lot of very similar stuff. So for a thriller author to give me something different, it's refreshing and it's exciting. Not only is there this massive shock factor in it, but there's an element of the relationship between sisters, especially twins. I cannot fault this book whatsoever. The writing was fantastic, the characters were all great, and I didn't know what was going on. I was left open-mouthed. It was awesome. I highly, highly recommend it. The second book, thriller that I read, was actually only a few days later, and I reviewed it on Goodreads on the 8th of February. It's called The Mother-in-Law by Sally Hepworth, who's an Australian author who I actually got to interview on my podcast, my bookish podcast. You can get some of the episodes on my YouTube channel as well for free, so you can go check that out. I do believe her interview with me is on there, available for you to listen to at your pleasure. So The Mother-in-Law is about this woman called Lucy who is desperate to have a relationship with her mother-in-law, Diana. When she finally gets introduced to her mother-in-law, she very quickly realizes they are not going to have the connection that she's been longing for, because she's always really dreamt of having that special connection with a mother figure, especially if it's, a mother-in-law, her partner's mum, the most special woman besides her in his life. From the moment they meet, for no particular reason that she can figure out, Diana is just frosty and not happy with Lucy in her son's life, or any of their lives really. The cool thing about it is that it's told from 2 points of view. So we get Lucy's point of view and we get Diana's point of view, and it's kind of told within in the past and present tense. What's really fascinating and unique about this book is that Diana, which it's not a spoiler, you know it pretty much right off the very first page, she died, and you don't know how. Again, was she murdered, was she not? What happened? Was it maybe Lucy that murdered her? And you see what's going on after Diana's death, but then also what's going on beforehand and the build-up to her inevitable tragic death. The police really think that it is like a staged homicide, so they start investigating it and eliminating suspects and stuff. And obviously Lucy is one of the suspects, as is her partner, the son, which is interesting. I'm more than my mother too sometimes. Obviously, Lucy's relationship with Diana gets questioned. You know, was Lucy pushed over the edge with this bitterness and resentment that Diana had for her, and did she actually just go, well, fuck you, stabby stabby? It's not just Lucy and her partner that are being questioned, though. All the family members are suspects. So, and they've all got a reason why they would have wanted to kill her, which is really interesting. So, and you actually just don't know who could have done it. The layers to this story were superbly well done. And even though, you know, there were a lot of layers and a lot of characters that were getting questioned, you never felt overwhelmed or like you could keep up with the story. That's a really important part of a book to me, because sometimes I can get really overwhelmed and forget certain plot lines or subplots and stuff, and I'm just like, oh god, like this is too much. But Sally Hepworth really did it well. The other thing I should have probably mentioned earlier is that Diana is very wealthy, so the main reason that everyone would want to murder her all boils down to money. It's a scandalous tale of the lengths people will go to get money and how money can destroy friendships and family. It was a really fun read, one that you really enjoyed unraveling it and trying to figure it out. It's very psychological. Like, you learn so much about how bad miscommunication is and the effects it can have, and regret that people have for not doing certain things or doing certain things. And it's fantastic. It really, really just hit me hard. The only issue I had with it is, obviously I'm back from Australia now and I can't bring myself to read Australian books at the moment because I'll probably cry. But at this time, when I was still living in Australia and living happily ever after with my ex-boyfriend who dumped me, I only wished that there had been more Australianism in it, because it's set in Australia, but it didn't really dive into life in Australia. And I like that in books, you know, when you're reading about a book set in a certain country, like, take me there, please. I'd love to experience it. The last book that I'll talk to you about today is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I love Colleen Hoover. She is an author for me. There's only a couple of her books that haven't really hit the mark for me, but Verity I was so excited about because it's her first proper thriller novel. I kind of feel like Too Late and It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover had a thriller feel to them, only because they were so realistic and scary and heartbreaking for me. But that's just me personally, because I can really relate to her books. But Verity was her first time actually experimenting in the thriller genre, and she bloody nailed it. So Verity is about this girl called Loan, who is a struggling ghostwriter, and she's really battling to make ends meet at the moment. Luck swings her way, and this well-known bestseller author called Verity Crawford has this horrible accident and needs help finishing her latest book. So Loan is hired to finish this book for her. Even more luckily and conveniently, she was just evicted from her flat and was pretty much going to be jobless, homeless, pretty much like me at the moment. But the position where she's going to be helping Verity means that she gets to go and move in with Verity and her family, her husband and child. So obviously she jumps at the chance, she moves in, and it's kind of really weird because Verity's brain dead. So Lowen has to kind of like sift through all of these notes and stuff and figure out how to write this book kind of by herself without Verity's actual guidance because she's brain dead in a bed upstairs. So while she's going through all these notes, she discovers an autobiography that Verity had written, and she starts reading it, and the things it contains are beyond disturbing. Verity starts telling this story, so it's kind of like a book in a book, which I really like too. So Verity's autobiography that Lowen's reading basically admits the way that she murdered her twin daughters in a very horrible, dark, vile way because she was jealous of them and because she felt like her husband loved her daughters more than her and she couldn't deal with that. And it's disgusting, really, but a very, very good premise. So the story goes on, and as Lowen's reading this biography and just getting more and more horrified by the contents, she starts to wonder if Verity is actually faking her accident and being brain dead to keep her husband to herself now that she's gotten rid of her two twin daughters and they've only got the one small son left. She starts wondering, can anyone actually be that wicked and evil to fake being a vegetable just to keep her husband in her life and have him dote on her hand and foot, basically. Furthermore, the husband who now Lowen is living with, not only are they starting to have an attraction towards each other, but he doesn't know how his twin daughters were killed. I think he thinks that it was an accident, and it's up to Lowen to decide if she can stomach telling him the truth about what his wife did. Like I said earlier, when a thriller gives me something different, I am so happy because so many are just so cliche. But Verity was just like, what the hell just happened? That was insane. I didn't see the twist coming at all. In usual Colleen Hoover style, it is hot, graphic, sexy. Yeah, Colleen Hoover, please carry on writing thriller books because I really need to have more from you in my life, but I will read anything you bring out. Anyway, so I'm going to do kind of a series of this. So I think I'm going to do 3 of my favourite self-help books that I've read, or maybe just like 3 non-fiction books that were my favourite this year so far, halfway through. And what else? I've read a few horrors. I've read a few contemporaries. So let me know what kind of genres you'd be interested in be talking to you about next, so I can give you guys some really good recommendations, in my opinion. Anyway, let me know what your favourite thriller that you've read this year so far is. I'd love to know. Thanks very much for listening. Bye!